Nyinyi mko na noti ya 10k moja na it can only buy a chicken.
Kuna wale ambao wameiba mali ya umma.
Wale watu wa seminar na retreat.
NASA died. I'm a man of God. I prophesy NASA is dead. Tena iko shetani fulani anatuambia turudi nyuma tena kwa hiyo ndoa. Mimi ningependa tafadhali mtuombee leo ile ndoa ya NASA. Tafadhali Apostle mtuombee party leader wetu wasirudi huko.
They need money.
Because ukiangalia time ya budget.
No, it's in the poorest. It's the poorest county.
Wale ambao wanajiweka mbele kwamba ni mafarasi ndo watu ambao watatupotosha katika hii nchi ya Kenya. Wao wanataka watutumie kama vibarakala, tuwapatie uongozi, hakuna manufaa tutapata kwao.
And now you have, let's say, 20 million who will be back. How do you bank that money again?
I'm telling you, the culture of selling stuff in Western Kenya, any asset must be sold, any liability must be sold. Have you seen for the past 2 years what this man has been going through? Every time he has to come out and explain things, and the people who are putting him in these problems, what to do? Western Kenya needs a think tank.
Hizo ndo safarasi mbili tunatarajia, lakini hao wengine tumechoka nao. Maana mtu kama baba hauwezi kuwa unapewa penalty kila wakati au ufungi bao na bado timu inakupatia penalty. Sisi tumempigia ya kutosha.
Tayari kusimama na Musalia liwe liwalo, kama vile baba aliposimama na watu wake wa Kisumu, akasema hata akisema ati ende waanguke kwa kisima anaanguka kwa kisima ati juu baba amesema. So mimi pia niko ready kusimama na Musalia Mudavadi.
Sasa wanamsumbua rais, badala ya rais kufanyia kazi wa Kenya. Sasa rais amekuwa ati anashughulikia watu watano hapo kujaribu kuwapanga na tamaa yao.
Thursday, there is politics, leadership and governance, and we ain't gonna leave you out of our conversation. You can text or call in 0746 999 841. It is a wonderful evening. I hope you had a fantastic day. You arrived in time for Maisha Prime News. My name is Rida Chebet Kering. Welcome, and we start with a political story. The Deputy President William Ruto has fired back at President Uhuru Kenyatta, saying that the Building Bridges initiative was dangerous to the country. In a thinly veiled attack at his boss who dared him to resign on Monday, the deputy president says the president's aim was to return Kenya to an imperial presidency on the pretext of uniting the country. Bushebi Jr. with a comprehensive report on this.
BBI was dangerous for Kenya.
The Cold War between the head of state and his deputy that began shortly after the March 9th handshake that brought together the president and ODM leader Raila Odinga at the steps of Harambee House has culminated into a full-blown out war.
If he were to embrace this process that we were, the only reason because he's been how you don't call somebody who is against what you're trying to do. He has been opposed to it. For what reason, I don't know, but he has been opposed to it.
Today, Deputy President William Ruto condemned the police after officers disrupted burial preparations for Maho MCA Ronald Sagurani on Tuesday morning, which he attended. Mr. Sagurani died of COVID-19 complications while undergoing treatment at Pandya Hospital in Mombasa on August 17th. The police in Taita Taveta County had cited violation of COVID-19 rules for the move. Officers dismantled tents that were erected at Kemri grounds in a bid to stop people from attending the burial ceremony that was to be graced by the DP. The family was forced to hold the ceremony at his home in Russia, thus locking out hundreds of mourners. While addressing the mourners, DP Ruto apologized to the family. He condemned the skirmishes as shameful and apologized on behalf of the government.
Tunawaomba radhi pia kwamba kumetokea changamoto zingine ambazo hatukuzitarajia. Lakini hata na hayo nataka niombe msamaha kwa wale wote kwa sababu mimi ni kiongozi wa serikali na mambo yakitendeka ambayo yana kiwango ya kuwa yanakera watu, ni lazima nichukue jukumu hilo kwa sababu mimi niko hapa. Poleni sana familia. Sisi wote tulikuwa tumekuja hapa kwa sababu ya kumsindikiza huyu muungwana, lakini mambo ya mengine ambayo yasivyo yameingia kati, mambo madogo, mambo duni ya siasa ndogo ndogo imeingia katika hii sherehe. Tunawaomba msamaha. Tunataka sote kama Wakenya tutafute njia ya kuvumiliana.
At the service, DP Ruto went on to ask those that he had wronged for forgiveness, but added that he is a man on a mission with no luxury to surrender.
Kwa wale ambao wanaona nimewakosea, naomba msamaha. Lakini nimeamua ya kwamba sina nafasi ya kurudi nyuma na sina starehe ya kusarenda. Kenya hii mpaka tuibadilishe. Mwenye hana kazi mpaka apate kazi kwanza kabla hatujaongeza vyeo ya viongozi. Mwenye biashara yake ni ndogo mpaka tutafute hali ya kusaidia biashara yake ndogo hata kama ni ya mama mboga kabla ya sisi kugawana mamlaka kama viongozi. Hiyo tu ndio mimi nauliza, na tuelewane na tuvumiliane. Kenya ni yetu sisi wote. Hakuna haja ya fujo, hakuna haja ya vuruko, hakuna haja ya makasiriko. Sisi wote ni wa Kenya. Ama ni haja watu wa Taita Taveta. So mimi nataka niseme hivyo na niseme ya kwamba tutashirikiana, tutafanya kazi pamoja.
The DP sent shockwaves remarks targeting his boss and the BBI. He said those who are leaders cannot just change the constitution to share power without regard to Kenyans.
If there was a much more dangerous constitutional change, it is the BBI. Because it was going to roll back all the gains we had. We fought for almost 30 years against an imperial presidency.
BBI has nothing to do with his candidacy. BBI has nothing to do with Uhuru wanting to continue, because there is no clause in BBI that says that the incumbent president is going to continue for another 10 years. There is no clause. This is all propaganda and hype that is built around.
The BBI was going to install the imperial presidency in a very unprecedented way. How will you account that the BBI was suggesting that we have a president who controls the legislature through appointment of members of parliament into the executive and controls the judiciary using the ombudsman? We would have an imperial presidency. Let us not lie to ourselves. Let us not lie to the people. BBI was dangerous for Kenya, and we thank God it failed.
If indeed what the court even ruled on BBI is anything to go by, then in effect they are telling us we can't have a general election because we don't have a constituted IEBC. So how many times have I told you people, I am very grateful to the Almighty God and the people of Kenya for the opportunity they've given me. I am more than happy to serve out my time and finish my program. But I also believe that this is part of my agenda, to be able to bring people together and to be able to ensure that we have a peaceful, stable, united country.
President Uhuru Kenyatta had asked his deputy president William Ruto to resign if he is dissatisfied with the government. The president was speaking for the first time since the Court of Appeal upheld the High Court's decision rendering the BBI process unconstitutional. Ruto has for a long time been opposed to the handshake between the head of state and opposition leader Raila Odinga that gave birth to the Building Bridges initiative aimed at amending the constitution to reunite the country. However, Ruto, though not publicly declaring his position to the initiative, had on several occasions criticized it. The bromance between them started fading away, the matching outfits were put aside, and the Cold War began. After Uhuru accused Ruto of moving around the country aimlessly, hence the name Tanga Tanga, and that was given before the handshake. It is this development that led to the formation of Breakaway Party, the United Democratic Alliance UDA, and the subsequent expulsion of leaders who publicly declared support for the party. Most of the deputy president's allies have since then been ejected from key positions in parliament, and some cabinet secretaries allied to the country's second in command have been sacked. Reporting for Maisha TV, Maisha Prime, Bushabe Jr. is my name.
Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta led a number of Kenyan dignitaries, including former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, in attending the inauguration of Zambia's newly elected President Hakainde Hichilema. Hichilema has been sworn into office after pulling off a stunning rare victory for an African opposition leader. Hichilema was inaugurated on Tuesday morning at a ceremony attended by leaders including the Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan and Malawi leader Lazarus Chakwera. Zambia's second female Vice President Mutale Nalumango was also sworn in during the ceremony.
I want to reiterate what I said during my acceptance address, that gone are the days when political cadres would take over the functions of a public service worker in a market, in a bus stop, in a government office and other places. Absolutely never again. Never again.
And as the vetting of the IEBC commissioners continues, the second candidate before the vetting committee was Francis Wanderi, was put to task over, among other things, the suitability of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission to handle the Building Bridges initiative process. He was also asked his views on whether the media should be given access to the IEBC server. On the other hand, the IEBC Commissioner nominee Juliana Cherera has said that she will stay put in office even if she were to encounter attempts at external interference with her work or pressure from the politicians to resign before the elections. Appearing before the National Assembly's Justice and Legal Affairs Committee on Tuesday, that is today, for approval hearings, Cherera said that she will put the interest of the public first.
The question about quorum and the ruling that just happened, yes, we are going to review the things that have been agreed by the commissioners that have been there. Everything we will want them to put on the table, so that now we can get back to them and revisit every decision that has been made, and more so the decisions that are going to affect this current election has to be done by the full quorum, so that we don't give a gap that come elections and the results are announced, we are revisited with this question back there.
I hold the view that for IEBC to build its credibility, it needs to engage with all the stakeholders. And that includes the political parties and the leaders of the political parties. Because even as we talk about the independence of IEBC, it has to take into account that it is not operating as an island. It is operating within a political system and a governance system. And the views that the customers, and I consider the stakeholders, the political parties.
I think before anyone resigns in any job, there must be reasons behind.
This is your voice.
There must be reasons behind. I don't think somebody will just wake up today and just say, I'm resigning. There must have been something which happened to lead to that resignation. It could be a threat, it could be an influence, it could be even that issue of stress that somebody, so there are many reasons which I cannot tell.
People that I have dealt with, I think the English say that tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are. Yeah, and people that I've dealt with, Mheshimiwa, are people of high integrity. I have worked in areas like the Amnesty International, where I worked, required that I would be impartial, neutral. And I think that is the reason why Chapter 6 of the Constitution of Kenya.
Siaya land owners are decrying margins of cartel bans on grabbing their land. The property owners with undeveloped land in Siaya County may now have their land reposed. This is according to a notice issued on 19th August by the county's Ministry of Land.
As I stand here, I've been a victim. I've lost 4 acres of land to people whom I do not know. I do not know how they get gazette notices. I do not know how they get court proceedings without involving the rightful owners before they take possession. So these are matters which must be investigated. And that is the reason why we feel those of us who own properties within the Siaya town, that this exercise may be ill-advised and simply intended to allow other people to grab people's land. I am appealing to the county government to shelve any intention of repossessing any land until those matters have been resolved.
President Uhuru Kenyatta has appointed a tribunal to look into the petition on removal from office of Honorable Lady Justice Mary Muthoni Gitumbi, Judge of the Environment and Land Court on medical grounds. The Judicial Service Commission, JSC, submitted a petition for her removal, citing medical grounds. Pending advisory from the tribunal, the president has suspended Justice Muthoni from office with immediate effect. The ongoing surge of COVID-19 infections in the country continue to affect many sectors, with traders who largely depend on small-scale trade income bearing the brand, where most of money is now focused on paying huge cost of taxation and stock due to the effects of COVID-19. The emerging of other disasters like the ongoing health guidelines is just one of the setbacks that calls for immediate interventions, where thousands of vulnerable traders have lost capital and businesses, a situation that will be a double tragedy. We prepared a feature story on some of the issues that business owners go through. The economic crisis unleashed by the outbreak of COVID-19 is hurting economies regardless of the income level. The government is undertaking various measures to curb the spread of the virus, including limiting movement in places with high human traffic, restriction of public events, 10 to 5 p.m. curfew, and ensuring basic hygiene, among others. However, these precautionary measures continue to have negative economic impacts on businesses and workers. The country has witnessed job cuts across various sectors, and income of businesses and available working hours have fallen significantly. We meet with Elzario Hanu, a phone repair agent whose business has been greatly affected by the pandemic.
Majina ni Elzario Boba Hanu. Nafanya kazi ya kuunda masimu, phone repair. Ninafanyia hapa Little Friends opposite Mpeli Medical Center. Kazi yangu imeafektiwa sana corona. Isimu watu pati pesa kama vile wakati corona ilikuwa.
Elzario, whose business is located in Bungoma town, is experiencing the wrath of the pandemic with significant reduction in his income occasioned by decrease of the services price in order to retain his customers.
Mambo na corona alafu na PPI, mambo ya kupandisha maisha, gharama ya maisha imekuwa juu. Imetuaffect sana hata mpaka zaidi, na sasa afadhali turudi nyumbani tupalilie tulime. Hao wakikuja kama mouthpiece tunakianga 150 na inafika mahali tunashukisha mpaka naekea 50 bob, ambapo nandia ile charging system shilingi 50, nanua na shilingi 50 naekea na customer shilingi 70, na ambapo zamani ilikuanga 150. Okay, ukisema 150 wanasema unatuibia kwa sababu corona imeaffect kila kitu. Hakuna pesa.
With 7 p.m. curfew earlier imposed on the Lake Region counties, Elzario recounts the increase in theft cases, a situation that led him to come up with a plan to save him from the risk of losing his customers' goods.
Tuathiri sana, asa wengine huwa wanatuachia vitu asubuhi, wanakuja kuchukua majioni, ambapo saa 12:30 inafika hajafika, na hiyo masaa inatatikana ufunge uende, ambapo tukiwa tumefungia hapo vitu, unapata tuko kwa hivyo vitu ya mteja iko hatari ya kuibiwa, hasa kuvunja na kuiba na kuenda na vitu. Sasa hapo ilibidi tukawawekea rules zile ambazo zinasemekana kuwa kitu ukileta leo ina make sure uchukue leo, ifike jioni masaa 10. Ikifika masaa 10, hiyo masaa ukikuja utaanza kulipia ushuru, pia utaanza kuongezeka kitu. Kama tulikuwa tumesikizana shilingi 1000, utaongezea 50 juu ya kulinda hiyo mzigo.
However, despite the struggle to fit into the pandemic, Elzario Hanu is optimistic that the economy will adjust back to normal.
Zile kitu ambayo ningependa kusema, wapunguze gharama ya maisha, iko juu sana. Hasa hii mambo ya corona hii imechangia vitu imepanda juu. Hasa watu wale hawajiwezi katika kwa mapato. Sisi huwa nategemea hapa hivi. Hatuna kazi nyingine yenye tunafanya, nategemea hii. Na hasa wakipandisha vitu, transport kutoka huko Nairobi kuleta huko spare, sisi tutakosa makastoma. Hasa serikali yetu ya Kenya ipunguze ushuru ya vitu, irudi chini, gharama ikuwe chini. Okay.
COVID-19 is not only a global pandemic and public health crisis, it has also severely affected the country's economy and financial markets. Significant reductions in income, rise in unemployment, disruptions in transport sector and manufacturing industries are among the consequences of the disease mitigation measures that have been implemented by the government. For Maisha Prime News, Maisha Television, I'm Rida Chebet Kering. Now shift to Olympics. The Paralympics began today with a colorful opening ceremony in the same empty national stadium during the same pandemic as the opening and closing ceremonies of the recently completed Tokyo Olympics. The Japanese Emperor Naruhito got it all started again with this time under the theme "We Have Wings." Among the few on hand were the Douglas M. Hoff, the husband of U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris, the International Paralympic Committee President Andrew Parsons, and International Olympic President Thomas Bach. It was a circus-like opening with acrobats, clowns, vibrant music and fireworks atop the stadium to mark the start of the long parade of athletes. The opening ceremony featured the national flags of the 162 delegations represented, which included the refugee team. In addition, the flag of Afghanistan was carried by a volunteer, despite the delegation not being on hand with Tokyo. Team Kenya athletes started arriving in Tokyo on Sunday night with powerlifter Helen Waweru Kariuki among the first arrivals. She will open Kenya's action on Thursday at the Tokyo International Forum, where she is entered in the 41-kilometer category with competition starting at 1 p.m. local time and 7 a.m. Kenya's time.
Nilikuwa naangazia sana my third attempt ambayo nilikuwa nimetarget 100 na ninatumaini ya kwamba nitafikisha hiyo 100 kilograms. So kwanza before nifike huku kidogo nilikuwa na tension, but jana venye niliingia huku training nilisikia tu nimejawa na confident ingine, sijaipata confident kama hiyo, so niko tayari.
And crossing borders ahead of an emergency G7 meeting on Afghanistan, a Taliban spokesperson on Monday warned there will be consequences if an extension is sought to the August 31st deadline of the US-led troop withdrawal from the war-torn country. Taliban spokesperson Dr. Suhail Shaheen, while speaking to the press, said that the month-end deadline was a red line as any extension will imply an extended occupation of the country. Biden had said that US troops might stay beyond the August 31st deadline to oversee the evacuation. The Britain had also urged the United States to extend its evacuation effort in Kabul past August 31st deadline. That's all we had for Maisha Prime News. My name is Rida Chebet Kering, and I'll be coming back with Maisha Prime Talk, and today we're talking about education. Make sure you tuned in. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.
Let's get ready to rumble! Your one Maisha is getting an exciting makeover. We're giving your channel a dedicated touch to enhance your viewing experience. Finding what you want, loving it has never been this easy.
Build your capacity. The problem is leadership.
My name is Rida Chebet Kering.
Welcome home to your dedicated channel, where you choose it, watch it, and love it. It's your season.
Kwa shows bab kubwa, ngoma kali, movies, documentaries, series, talk shows na vipindi vya kuchangamsha, kuelimisha na kufahamisha, ni hapa tu Maisha Television.
You're the best thing that ever happened to me.
Oh my God. Unachukua the best, unatazama na unaipenda. Kwa masuala ya afya, habari kemkem, ukulima, biashara, vipindi vya watoto, hapa ni moto. Maisha TV.
Nyinyi mko na noti ya 10k moja na it can only buy a chicken.
Kuna wale ambao wameiba mali ya umma.
Wale watu wa seminar na retreat.
NASA died. I'm a man of God. I prophesy NASA is dead. Tena iko shetani fulani anatuambia turudi nyuma tena kwa hiyo ndoa. Mimi ningependa tafadhali utuombee leo ile ndoa ya NASA. Tafadhali Apostle utuombee party leader wetu wasirudi huko.
Because ukiangalia time ya budget.
No, it's the poorest county.
Wale ambao wanajiweka mbele kwamba ni mafarasi ndio watu ambao watatupotosha katika hii nchi ya Kenya. Wao wanataka watutumie kama vibarakala, tuwapatie uongozi, hakuna manufaa tutapata kwao.
And now you have, let's say, 20 million who will leave back. How do you bank that money again?
I'm telling you, the culture of selling stuff in Western Kenya, any asset must be sold, any liability must be sold. Have you seen for the past 2 years what this man has been going through? Every time he has to come out and explain things, and the people who are putting him in these problems, Western Kenya needs a think tank.
Hizo ndo farasi mbili tunatarajia, lakini hao wengine tumechoka nao. Maana mtu kama baba hauwezi kuwa unapewa penalty kila wakati, haufungi bao na bado timu inakupatia penalty. Sisi tumempigia ya kutosha.
Tayari kusimama na Msalia liwe liwalo, kama vile baba aliposimama na watu wake wa Kisumu, akasema hata akisema ati ende waanguke kwa kisima, anaanguka kwa kisima ati juu baba amesema. So mimi pia niko ready kusimama na Msalia Mudavadi.
Sasa wanamsumbua rais, badala ya rais kufanyia kazi wa Kenya. Sasa rais amekuwa ati anashughulikia watu watano hapo kujaribu kuwapanga na tamaa yao.
As there is politics, leadership, and governance, and we ain't gonna leave you out of our conversation. You can text or call in 0746 999 841. Good evening and welcome to Maisha Prime Talk. It is Tuesday, it's all about education. And today I'm joined by the CEO of Clear Soul Africa Limited. He's also the Director of Depression Kenya and the Director of Champions of Faith Kenya Edition. He's also the host of the Bushebi Junior Show. Karibu sana Bushebi Junior.
Asante sana. Thank you so much. My name is Bushebi Junior. And yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, and today Bushebi Junior is going to help me dissect some of the issues concerning education. And our main focus today is the 100% transition to high school as pushed by the government. Now, Bushebi Junior, there is this issue of 100% transition, which has been the talk of the almost a month. But it's something that started 4 years ago, and it was not successful. Why do you think that in the previous years, the government was not successful in ensuring 100% transition to high school?
First of all, kuna watu wanatutazama hawajui hata hiyo 100% transition ni nini. Because not everybody actually knows what that means. So maybe the big question where we should start from is to try and look at what it means by 100% transition. Yeah.
Well, I think 100% transition, just as it is 100%. The government is trying to ensure that the number of pupils who start for the KCP exams, all of them, by meaning 100%, all of them transit to high school.
High school.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that it's a good idea. You know, everything starts as an idea, but it's usually a process. So it's not that it's been unsuccessful. That's not the right word to use. I think since everything is step by step and everything is a process, the government has been trying to make sure that everyone gets education. Like you said, it's a right for every child it's a right to education. That is one of the basic needs of every child. And yesterday, I think yesterday we saw the education CS Professor George Magoha, who actually was in Mombasa, I think Bangladesh State and Kibarani. And they were trying to smoke out some of the culprits that have not joined Form 1. And also to try and find out what really is the problem. The reason why some of the students have not yet reported. I think there's something like 40% of the students who did their KCPE exams have not yet reported to high school. I think it's something, that's a big number. That's a huge number. And I think the government must be concerned, because if they don't join high school, what's going to happen to them in the next 5 years? Where are they going to be? Are we going to expect them to join universities after 4 years, or are we expecting them? Where are we going to find that number of children who didn't join a Form 1? So it's something that, you know, government is in the business of planning for the future. And if you don't plan basing on education, we're going to have a generation in future that won't understand where they're coming from, and they won't understand where they're going. That means they will never understand their past or their history, and they will never ever have a vision for the country in the next the years to come. And so there won't be development, there won't be an inheritance for the next generations if we don't put them in classes. So the big thing I know that has been troubling most parents is money.
Yeah, true, especially during this period of COVID-19.
Yes, as much as the government wants everyone in school, there's also the issue of money. I mean, governments, before governments are formed, you know, politicians, those are the lawmakers, come and promise, you know, we're going to have free education from nursery, primary, secondary, even up to university. But then when they get into power, that is never really materialized. But like I said, it's not that it's their fault per se. It's the fact that it's a process. It's a process. So there are challenges. There are challenges that the government is facing. But when we look at the major problems that are facing parents is money. There's not enough money to keep either students in school or to take them to school. And that is why, that is one of the biggest reasons most people have given us to why their children are not yet in school.
Yeah, and you see the margin in which the policy was introduced, that was in 2018. And one of the main challenge during that period was shortage of teachers. The schools were experiencing about a shortage of 60,000 across the country. And now, one of the main challenges that we've seen, according to the stories that we've covered, is lack of enough infrastructures, the classrooms, the dormitories, the dining halls. They are few, they are not able to handle the high number of students who are supposed to report to high school.
This is the point. If the government cannot even do 100% free education, free secondary education, there's still a huge burden that parents are carrying when they are taking their children to school. How are they going to manage infrastructure? How are they going to manage, building schools and doing and providing books and all those things? If you see the number of books parents are buying right now for their children, you'll be shocked.
Yeah, but don't you think that it's the government which is supposed to be more responsible here? Because they're the one who are pushing for 100% transition, and there are not enough infrastructures to handle those high number of students.
We can't say that we blame the government 100%. We need to look at the systems. Are the systems working? You know, if for example, we are doing broadcasting of this program, when something goes wrong, we need to go back and look at the system. Is there something wrong in the system? You might find that this affected this, and then it affected the next step, and the next step, and the next step, until you finally see the problem as the final product. But actually, when you start going deeper, you realize that there are elements that have been affected along the way. Because like I said, government is not a person. Government is a system that has several people and departments and systems working together, and they have to work harmoniously. We have the national budget that covers for everything. And when I say everything, it means all things, like everything in the country. Citizens pay taxes so that the government can provide the services that they need. So when the Constitution says it's a right, okay, it's not something that when a government builds school, we were supposed to clap our hands.
It's something they're supposed to.
That's your right. I mean, that's your right. You're not supposed to clap your hands because a road has been built somewhere. You're not supposed to celebrate because a school has been built somewhere. This is your right. You know, this is one part that most Kenyans never understand. So that whenever they see something, they get excited and clap their hands and say, you know, this is the best. That's not the best. Actually, it's your right. It's your right as a child to have education. And you should be paid for all your school fees. Like right now, I think the government has waived something, paid something like 10,000 for students in secondary schools to day schools. And then there's another like 7,000 to 10,000, which is lunch fees and other fees. You know, and then put more fees and these fees and this fee, traveling fees. We are going this way, we need this one, we are building this, you know, all kinds of things. At the end of the day, it's never free. It's not yet free. So the question we should ask is, what should we do to be able to create systems that can actually, with or without a certain person being there, can actually cater for infrastructure in schools, can cater for education, free education in schools, and paying teachers, and you know, training teachers, and doing all these things. We saw the other wars with TSC and NAT and stuff like that. All these things, they contribute to the systems of education. So when we have any form of And if like right now we have the CBC and then we have the 844 and then there's that confusion,
Yeah,
you know, there's that transition.
Both curriculum are still on the
Yes,
system.
they're still on the system and stuff like that. So when you're building infrastructure, what are you going to build? For CBC or 844?
Both.
Okay, so that's the problem. So we need to look at the system, actually. We need to look at the system. Because when you look at CBC, CBC is more talent-based. Okay, it's focused on an individual more than the corporate education stuff. Okay, so when you're building infrastructure, what are you building? What are you creating? You need to create an enabling environment for an individual. Okay, to develop an individual. But you see, when you look at 844, you begin to discover yourself after the last 4. Okay. Yeah, you begin to discover yourself after the last 4. That's when you start looking for things that actually match your vision, your dreams, and the things that you want to achieve in life. But when you look at CBC, it starts with you when you're still young. So how do we balance all this? When we talk about putting money in infrastructure, what are we building?
Classrooms, dormitories. Classrooms for, I think, the mode in which the CBC is being taught and the 844, I think it's still the same thing.
Now, we are going, there was a debate, and I think that debate is still there, that we are supposed to do day schools. We are not going to have boarding schools. So what infrastructure are we building? We are saying let's build dormitories. Here we are saying again, we don't want, let's scrap boarding schools. So what are we talking about as a country? What are we talking about as a country? Where are we heading? That's why I told you it's a system. Sometimes when you see the government not putting money somewhere, it's because of such confusion. Because another department says this, this other person says this, the other person says that, then you're at a loggerheads, and then at the end of the day, the financial sits back and it's like, okay, until you finish this madness,
then I'll come in.
Then I'll come in and know exactly. Because trust you me, money follows ideas, money follows projects. Okay?
Yeah.
Projects don't follow money. Money follows projects. Where there's a clarity of a project, money will come in. Okay? Where there's no clarity, money will never ever come there, whether you like it or not. If you don't have clarity of your vision, clarity of your project, clarity of your systems, don't expect money to follow you. That's just the natural principle. So when we are talking about infrastructure in school, we need to have clear vision of where we want our education system to go. Right now, I can tell you for sure, Rida, we have people who are planning for 2130. Okay? That is more than 100 years ahead. That is where they are building their infrastructure, the education system basing on 2130. Okay? They are building their infrastructure, the education system based on artificial intelligence, that is AI. They are building the education systems basing on Vision 2130. How are we going to live in the mass? If we become excess here, how are we going to own land in the moon? Okay? We are not even thinking 2030, we are thinking 2022. Okay?
Yeah.
So you tell me, it is a culmination of all kinds of things, politics included. Okay? The lawmakers, policy makers, people who sit in parliaments, whether counties or national parliaments, and they make laws and implement these laws. These are the people who are focusing on 2022. While other countries have technocrats and people who are focusing on 2130. Where are we going to be? Where do you want your child to be in the next 100 years? Where do you want your business to be in the next 100 years? What kind of education do you want your third, fourth, fifth, and sixth generation to have after you're gone? What kind of education do you want them? Is it the same thing you went to school to study? Do you want them to speak the same English you're speaking? You want them to advance? Do you want them to speak the same Swahili or mother tongue, whatever that you're speaking? You want them to advance? Do you want them to live the same life that you've been living? No. You want them to advance. Are we thinking about that as a nation? Absolutely not.
Now you've talked about the issue of infrastructures and you're saying that we don't have a clear vision. But now there's this issue of lack of enough teachers. What do you say about that?
Lack of enough teachers is because we are not channeling, there's no clarity of vision. We are not channeling enough resources to training teachers, to paying them well. That is the point. What happens to a child who sees that somebody stole 40 billion shillings and this child's mother is a teacher who earns around 20,000, 28,000 shillings, and for 3 months they have not been paid? What kind of a system are you creating? What kind of an imagination, mentality, attitude, what kind of an attitude are you creating in that child?
Not to become a teacher.
Exactly, not to become a teacher. So everybody will run away. Everyone will want to be a politician. Because when you're a politician, you can steal money. Okay, all you need to do is go before people, lie to them, tell them all kinds of stories, and that's it. Get your money and go home, do your business. You become an entrepreneur, you know, stuff like that. Why waste your time becoming a professional? You know, like, I'm an engineer, I'm a teacher, I'm a doctor. For what? When you can actually just come and be a politician and maybe become corrupt and get your money and do your business, make your own money. What is the point? So we are not channeling our money into systems that actually build societies. One of the systems that build societies is education. Both you and me are products of education. We owe what we have to our teachers. If they never taught us, we wouldn't be where we are today.
True.
But are those teachers being compensated in the same measure or even more? Are they being compensated? Why would we have teachers on the streets? Why would we have doctors on the streets? Why would we have engineers on the streets? The other day, Francis Atwoli was telling journalists to go on strike. Look at the mentality that we have, the people that can act, that are called leaders. Okay? Look at what they are doing to the society. Instead of building systems, sitting down and channeling the vision 3220, they are telling you to go on strike because they gave you a big camera to carry around. Okay? So I'm telling you, the problem goes back to the clarity of vision of education. Okay? It's not just a matter of creating something, an idea. Let me tell you something bad about an idea. When you hatch an idea, it is not cooked. It is not food to eat. Okay?
Yes.
It is something you're supposed now to prepare, then cook it, then once it is well prepared, then you eat it. Okay?
Yeah.
So what we have right now is we have ideas. But now we have forgotten that these are ideas. We need to cook these ideas. We need to streamline these ideas. We need to channel money into paying professionals. Like I said, remember the other time I was talking about the big data and all that stuff. Okay? We are not going to have quality education if we are going to pay our professionals peanuts. We are not going to have quality education if we are going to never train and retrain and enhance the training of our professionals. Okay?
Yeah.
We're not just going to sit back and let principals do news everywhere crying, you know, help us, please CDF, help us, please so and so, come and do a rambe here. We need a dormitory, we need this, we need that. We need a system that functions all by itself, with or without so and so there.
Yeah.
That is the most important. And I think if you're a leader, the thing that you should leave behind as a legacy is a system that can function without you. And function correctly. That is my point.
Well, I'm seeing Bushevi Jini is really into this issue. He's saying that we need to focus to have a clear focus on what we want in the next, not 2022.
Not 20. I mean, we can't focus on 2020. Let me tell you, our mindsets are on 2020. What are these leaders doing? These politicians, what are they doing right now?
They're trying to...
Yeah, you've heard of economic forum. These are not economic. There's no economic forum there. This is just theoretical talks, okay? After 2022, it's a repeat. Now we'll be waiting for 2027. That's where our vision will end. After 2027, we'll be waiting for another. Just a lot of wastage of time. Period. And in Kenya, the moment we finish elections, we start campaigning for the next
election. That is true.
That is the problem.
Yeah, we're going for a short commercial break. Our main topic today is the issue of 100% transition, and Education CS is saying that some of the regions has admitted like 60% of students to high school, and the government wants 100% transition, with Coast region being one of the most affected counties. And the Education CS Professor George Magua was there yesterday, and he was trying to root out alikuwa anatembea katika hizo vitongoji akijaribu kuwatoa wanafunzi ili waweze kuingia katika kidato cha kwanza. And I want to laud the Western region, because the Director of Education in Western region, Stephen Barongo, was saying that the reporting rate in Western is at 85%.
Western, you don't need to slap someone to go to school. We know about Western. In Western, people go to school, whether you like it or not.
Well, I think Western region is doing a good job, despite some of the challenges that schools have been experiencing, including congestion due to lack of enough infrastructures and also lack of enough teachers. We're going for a short commercial break. We'll be coming back, and today we're talking just about matters education. Make sure you stay tuned. You can follow this conversation. You can text in or call 0746 999 841. You can also leave your comment. We are live on our social media platforms: Facebook, Maisha Television Kenya; YouTube, Maisha Television Kenya; Twitter and Instagram at Maisha TV KE. I'm your host, Rida Tibet Kevin. Where when we introduce this going to school and all that stuff, even the female child is supposed to go to school, and when she goes to school, she's going to be taught about leadership. The people I know who can know them better are those other youth. So what I do, if I handle those youth toughly, they know what to do to my children. Yeah.
Oya ni aje, mimi ndo Jonte Fresh. Mimi ndio nimetambulika hii Gikomba yote sekta ya manguo. Jumi transform nguo ordinary za mtush zenye ziuka mna hii harufu ya bail into the freshest igi koshi yote. Siri ni hii real mpya ya pink. Na kushow mtush zinang'ara kung'ara kushinda kamera. So clean, so fresh. Ma customer wanaisana na hii story. Ninatumia aerial touch of down mpya tu.
This is Maisha Prime Talk. I'm your host, Rida Chebet Kering, and we're talking about education, specifically the 100% transition to high school, which the government is really pushing, and it is the 4th year since this policy was introduced. You can text in or call 0746 999 841. We are also live on our social media platforms, Facebook and YouTube, Maisha Television Kenya, Instagram and Twitter at Maisha TV KE. I'm joined by Bushebi Jr., who is the CEO of Clear Soul Africa Limited. He is also the director of Depression Kenya and the director of Champions of Faith, and also he is the host of the Bushebi Jr. Show. Now, Bushebi, we were talking about 100% transition, and we were talking about we don't have a clear focus on what we want. Now, I'll just ask you one question. Do you think that this 100% transition will be successful this year? Because if you compared 2018, 2019, 2020, I don't think it has been 100% successful. Do you think
you can do something 100% successful? you can never do. Whenever you're doing a project, you aim at 100%, but mostly you get, if you don't hit 100%, but which is the hardest, even in classes. Yeah, when you're doing an exam, it's usually 100%, but how many students score 100%? Very few. Hata ukiscore 100%, mwalimu anatafuta kitu, lazima atafute method wrong. Method M0, whatever, at a mark you must come back to 98% or something. But anyway, the good thing that we are talking about is not that Kenya doesn't have a vision. Okay? In fact, Kenya's education system is the strongest in the continent.
In the continent?
Yes.
I thought you were going
even no. Continent. Let me tell you. Who was the best teacher awarded in the world?
Actually, he's from Kenya.
He's from Kenya. Not once. Okay? So Kenya's education system, Kenyans are doing wonders. We are very good exporters of knowledge, by the way. We export. There are so many lecturers and great guys who are doing a lot of stuff out. So the good thing about Kenya is that Kenya is resilient. Kenya is persistent. Kenyans don't give up. Kenyans are guys who can decide to do something and they will do it. You might think they won't make it, but you'll be shocked they will make it. So the good thing about Kenya is that we have a vision. Okay? There is somewhere we are headed. But the only problem, it is not that clear. Okay? Like an example is the things that I've been mentioning before we went for break. I was talking about the channeling of enough resources into education. And Professor George Mago has tried. Trust you me. I know that every leader has his own failures, but every leader has his or her own successes. This man has tried. Now, 100% transition to high school is good because it will put enough pressure for 100% transition to universities. And then it will put enough pressure for 100% transition to getting jobs. Yes. So if there will be no job, people have to create jobs. And even export the jobs out, because most of these people, most of us will be educated, and if there are no jobs here, then we go to a country like Ghana, or we go to Nigeria, or we go to US, or we go to any other, or to Europe, and we export our knowledge there. Okay, we shall be employed in NASA, not NASA, TBIM. NASA, US. We'll be employed in big companies, ICT companies out there. Okay. Remember, I usually make I usually cite one of the biggest innovations in Kenya, that is M-Pesa. Okay. That one is not being run by people who have not gone to school. The idea might have come even from a very unknown source. Someone you never imagined that could hatch such an idea. But now running the system, perfecting the idea, okay, knowing the direction, this is where we are headed, okay, this is the objective of what we are doing. It requires someone who has gone to class. You can't run those systems if you've never been in ICT class. Okay, you must be knowing what you're doing. In this industry of ours, it's either you know or you don't know. There's no guesswork. There's no guesswork. There's no abracadabra that I would 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the right thing. Never. You either know or you don't. And who makes you know things? A teacher. Okay? So it's not that we don't have a vision. We have a vision, but it's not clear. Why? Because the thing is growing so fast. The world is moving so fast that we need clarity. We need to know where we are going. In the question of whether we are successful or we are going to be successful, we have to put parameters to gauge the success. We need to know what was the goal. Okay? What is the goal of doing 100% transition to high school? If we can educate all the students who did their KCPE and they get into high school, if that was the goal, then it is successful. If the goal was to make sure once you get to high school, everyone gets an A, and then everyone doesn't get an A, you will say they failed. But the goal here is not that everybody should get an A. The goal here is not that everybody should go to a university. The goal here is to educate every student
who did the
KCPE. They must also get the high school education, regardless. Munasomea chini ya miti ama juu ya nyumba. But at the end of the day, uko na cheti, ulienda high school, umefanya KCSE. That is the goal of the government. Now, if that is the goal and it is achieved, then it is successful.
And now there's this issue, ukiangalia most of the students who have not joined high school. The main challenges are the parents are not able to afford their school fees to high school. With others, I will leave others like teenage pregnancies, drug abuse. I saw in some Rift Valley regions, wanafunzi wameingia kwa hizi pombe hizi za kumi, ndio maana wajijoin high school. But the main challenge that parents are experiencing is lack of money. They are not able to afford the school fees to high school. What can you say about that?
Unajua saa zingine kuna vitu sisi hufanya hata shetani anakaa kando. Anashangaa, anasema kweli kompenye hao watu wamenipatia ni noma. Sometimes we blame the devil for some things, but I think it's just like I said, a lack of clarity of our vision. The government has tried. Like I said, it's not education alone that runs this country. Okay? There's infrastructure that needs to be built. There's the COVID-19 that needs to be tackled. There's health issue that needs to be tackled. Then there's a huge wage bill. But the Kenyans have never known. The day we said yes to the 2010 constitution, okay? An MCA, do you know how many people are employed by an MCA alone? And that money that they earn is not paid by the MCA, it's paid by you. An MCA's office has almost 15 people or 20 people.
And how many MCAs do you have?
And how many MCAs do you have? Okay, that is an MCA. You haven't gone to women rep, okay? You haven't gone to the senators. You haven't gone to the governors, okay? Now you haven't gone to the executive, okay? You haven't gone to the members of parliament, okay? You haven't gone to the president, you haven't gone to the opposition, you haven't gone to the political parties. I mean, the wage bill of the 2010 constitution is so big that it eats up almost 90% of the money that comes in. Okay? So you are given the government with that kind of a constitution. How are you going to manage? Utaingia malone, my friend. Lazima utaingia loan.
But nadhani time ya hiyo constitution, some leaders were opposing it and trying to tell Kenyans.
No, that is a very technical information that there's no way you can water it down or maybe try to brand it for a common mwananchi to understand. Okay? Ni ngumu sana kueleza mwananchi kwamba MCA ata-employ watu 15. Senator ata-employ watu 50. Governor hata utahesabu. Ujafikia president mwenye, ujafikia deputy president, ujafikia ma CS, ujafikia ma CAS, ujafikia sijui nani, ma PS, ujafikia. Ni ngumu sana kueleza Mkenya kwamba look, all the money that the government collects, 90% goes to these people. That That is why Kenyans are crying, but they don't really understand why they are crying. Because you must kazi. Lazima mwalipe. Period. If you don't pay them, they sue you. that is the contract. Okay? So as Kenyans, we have to pay them. So it is not education alone that is eating up or that is demanding for resources. There are so many, and the huge wage bill goes to the legislators. Okay? So when you are given a government of this kind, what do? Your first time, new constitution, you've never been president before. Here you are given a constitution, you are given all these people, then you are given some little money, and they tell you now, see how you're going to run this thing. Itabidi uombe pesa. Lazima utaomba pesa. Usipoomba pesa hautajenga mabarabara. Usipoomba, and mark you, there's corruption also involved, which is the most expensive thing also.
Kwa hiyo pesa unaomba lazima kuna
pesa. Utatoa pesa iende sijui ijenge barabara, itaenda iende huku South Africa, ikate kona iende China, iende Australia, barabara itakaa hapo 6 years haijawahi jengwa. Barabara inaandikwa kwamba imejengwa, imewekewa lami, but ukienda kwa ground vitu ni different. So it's not just education that is demanding for money. That's why I say the push and pull between resources and the demand. You know, it has pushed parents to go for even low cost private schools, because you know,
talking about private schools, there is this national school, Kapsabet Boys High School, that is located in Kapsabet, and they were given 500 students, and all of them are reported except 2 candidates. And according to the principal, the 2 asked for a transfer, and they have been replaced. They have gone to an international school. So I don't think that it's the matter of they are asking for transfers because of one. But
you see, there are parents who can afford to just take their children to school, regardless whether you're offering free secondary education or not. But you see, majority of Kenyans cannot afford to take their children to school. They cannot even afford to feed them. Okay? They cannot even afford to feed themselves. How about taking them to school?
Let's go by this example of Catholic boys. You can't tell me that all the students who are called there, their parents can afford to take them to schools.
I can't tell you that. You make a phone call, write an email to the principal, and then do an interview with that principal and find out what made those parents to take their children to school. Like
again, I think it's motivation. If a parent see the school performs.
When Moi wanted children to go to primary school, aliwapatia maziwa ya Nyayo. Ulikuwa ukifikiria tu maziwa ya Nyayo, mwenyewe unaamka saa 11 unaenda shule because unakumbuka maziwa ya nani? Ya Nyayo. Hakuchapa watoto. Ali-introduce things to entice parents and children to go wapi? To school. Okay? Now, we need civic education. Parents need to know that it is very important to educate your child. It is very important. You know, we assume a lot. There are some parents who don't care about this thing of education and taking children to school and stuff like that. Trust you me, there are parents who don't really care about this. Sisi tunaweza angalia watu in towns. Nairobi, Mombasa, Eldoret, Kakamega, you know, Kisumu. You know, those are people who know what they're supposed to do. Enda ghetto huko ndani, or enda ocha huko ndani, or enda somewhere penye watu hawajui education ni nini. Watu wanajua kuamka asubuhi na kuchunga ng'ombe, ama kuvua samaki, ama kuenda shambani, ama kufanya kitu fulani. They don't care about that education of yours.
Yeah, bora mtu amepata certificate yake class 8.
Wacha certificate. Mtu ana mali tayari. Umezaliwa kwa boma, baba, mama wako na ng'ombe, wako na nini. Shule unaenda kufanya nini?
And by the way, according to another data, about 100,000 students from one student cannot be traced.
What do you mean cannot be traced? This is one of the funniest things I've ever had. Sometimes unajua kuna statements zenye I hope it's not just a headline by a certain media house, but let me hope it's that they have traced them but they can't find them. But it's not that they cannot be traced.
Cannot be traced.
Yeah, because when they were doing KCPE, you have all the big data, you have all the data of all the students, where they come from, where they did the exams and stuff like that.
You can even go to the school where they did
exactly.
And ask
you don't need to go there, just call the chief huko ama call sijui nani, waambie tunataka mtoto fulani.
Aja join
shule yuko wapi, tafuta. It's not even a matter of, because you have the details. Nitumie details zinatumwa, you look, unajua ni mtoto wa nani anakaa mahali fulani, anaishi hapa na hapa. Unaenda kwa wazazi, mtoto yuko wapi? Mtoto anahitajika shule. And like I told you, some parents need to be forced to take their children to school.
I saw another news some time back. Mzazi wa Western alikuja akachukuliwa, alienda akashikwa by the way. Akapeleka mtoto shule.
This is what I'm telling you. And then there's the stereotyping. There are those who think mtoto msichana hafai kusoma.
Nasoma nini?
Sasa hii class 8 hii imeenda sana. Hii umesoma sana. Sasa unaendelea nini? Hakuna haja, wacha ndugu yako afanye nini? Asome. Kuna all kinds of reasons as to why these students are not joining Form 1. And don't assume. Assumption is the mother of all failures. Don't assume people know that they are supposed to take their children to school. Let the government not assume that people know that just because you did a press conference or maybe because tu uliongea ukaonekana kwa news ukasema watu waende shule. Don't think that just because you did that watu wamesikia.
Kenya ni vichwa ngumu.
Iko watu vichwa ngumu.
Kusukumwa.
Vichwa ngumu is one of the reasons. Pesa is another reason. Haya, another reason unaita labda mtoto ameitwa sijui wapi. Wewe unaishi kwingi the other end of the world. Unashindwa huyu mtoto sasa kama kukula peke yake siwezi mlisha. Na fare kumtoa hapa kumpeleka shule ndio nitaweza.
But walikuwa wanapeana hiyo period ya transfer. Walipeana hiyo option, you can transfer them if you cannot.
You see, my biggest problem with our government, my biggest problem is accessibility to information. That is my biggest problem with our government. Ukienda mambo ya COVID, people don't know because they don't know, they cannot afford to know. Because information imefanya nini? Imeshikiliwa. The other time I had a meeting with the county government. Tulikuwa kwa meeting, county, sitasema county government ya wapi. But we were in a meeting and I told the big guys. I told them, your problem is information. When kwa website ya county government. For example, go to county government, unataka kujua something about county government of Busia. Enda kwa busia.go.ke. Okay? Hakuna kitu utapata hapo. Utapata hata longitude peke yake na altitude ya Busia. Utapata hapo
communication department.
Na kuna communication. That's what I'm telling you. The problem with governments is communication. Civic education. What is so hard for you just to send those text messages? Ulipe Safaricom na Airtel na nini utuma hizo messages kwa kila.
Wanafanya kama unaona time wanatangaza results.
Yes.
They always send messages through Safaricom.
But they make a lot of money out of that thing by the way.
Sasa ungetumia the same mode to communicate.
10 shillings to send that SMS. And you are one student. And we are 10 people that 10 people want to know mtoto amepata ngapi. So each student 10 people average. 10 times 10 100. Okay? How many students do you have? Millions.
100 million.
So in 3 hours how much money do you make?
Tumejenga hizo infrastructures ambazo ziko enough kwa.
Exactly. Leo pesa inaendaga wapi by the way? Hiyo system nani ana own? Na tukitaka kujua results zako tuma kwa hii namba. Nani ana own hiyo platform? Who owns that platform?
Sitaki kusema ni nani.
That is the point. Na wanakuambia unaweza enda ukaonea pia kwa website. But ya website haifanyi. SMS peke yake ndio inafanya.
Well, I don't want us to get deep into that. I'm seeing that our time is up and I don't want to add more about that. And today we're talking about the Form 1 transition. I know there's been challenges. The school principals have been crying, saying that they don't have enough infrastructures. Some are saying that they don't have enough teachers. But we hope that the government will sort out these issues as they push for a 100% transition policy to ensure that all pupils who sat for the KCPE 2020 exams transit to high school. I was your host, Rida Chibet Kering, and
Bushabe Jr.
We'll see you next time.